Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go.
Hey guys, it's your girl FanCEE and welcome back to another episode of FanCEE Conversation. Today is all about transparency, something that I preach and I talk about on. Make sure you like, you comment, share it with somebody else because I think that this is a game changer. Okay. So when I share my story or how I even got started with all of this and talking and speaking to teenagers and young women and wanting to be a life coach and completing that and becoming a life coach and being so inspirational to people was simply because I am so transparent. Like, I have no reason to hide any parts of me from anybody because I just want to be authentic. I want to live my life in such a way that I don't have to be fearful of what people are going to say to me or how they're going to perceive me or what they'll think of me if they find out something that happens and nobody knows about it. And so what I'm trying to promote and what I'm trying to encourage people to do is be more transparent. Allow people to see you for who you really are, not behind a mask, not be, certain parts that you reveal, but everything about you. I can admit to being suicidal. I can admit to being arrested. I can admit to not being a good partner, not being a good friend, not being a good daughter or sister or granddaughter or even a mom. Sometimes I may fall short, but I'm willing and I'm so open to communicating that to anybody who comes in contact with me because I don't know what my transparency would mean for them. So I think a lot of times we create this layer and we create this mask to protect our heart and to protect our feelings, ultimately from what people are going to say and how they're going to perceive us if we were to expose, not even expose, if we were to just show them. Just show them who we were underneath that layer. That is so important because that's where our heart lives. That's where the emotion lives. That's where we learn and how we can be vulnerable with people and how new things happen. I never would have imagined where I am in my life right now I would be because I was so closed off to so many things. I was closed off to different types of relationships. I was closed off from my purpose because I was hiding behind fear of what will people think of me. And why do we care? Why do we care about what people think about us? Why do we care that somebody's opinion? I'm now comfortable enough to where if somebody does say something that offends me or I take it the wrong way, or if it knocks past that protection layer and it really hits me to my core, I'm okay with now communicating with somebody and saying, hey, what you said really hurt me and I just wanted you to know how I felt. Why can't we do more of that? We don't have to live behind this idea or this shadow or this concept of the layer. The layer needs to come off and we really need to get down to the core. And so in that, as you sit in that, as you think about where transparency could take us, here's 3 reasons why I feel like we should be more transparent.
Better late than never, but never late is better. They tell me time is money, but we'll spend it together.
Number 1, it creates a healthy and more open dialogue. I'm going to use the example of teenage girls or teenagers in general because I work with teenage girls. I literally take off my layer and I tell them the truth. I give them a raw idea of who I am in a brief overview of my life. I don't even have to go into details about everything because me being open and honest about who I am and my experiences and what I've been through allows them to see that I'm human. I am real, I am raw, and I'm willing to expose and take off my layer for you so that you will be comfortable enough to trust me and to understand your life is no different than mine was. You know, we may not have the same experiences. We may not grew up the same way. We may have different challenges that we've come across, but my mistakes are my mistakes. My experiences are my experiences, and I own them, and I'm willing to share that because I don't know what you are going through. So if you can understand, okay, this is where she's been, this is where she's come from, and she's still standing, and she's still, you know, happy and thriving and being successful, that allows you, that allows them on the receiving end to want to open up to me. And I've seen it time and time again, where I'm meeting these teen girls and they're literally opening up to me only because I'm honest. So it creates that open and healthy dialogue that we need to have, that I don't know how many people are having. How many of you could sit down with your parents when you were growing up and have a conversation about sex? Probably not the most comfortable conversation that you had. Definitely not one for me. And I can remember my experience of even having the conversation, and my mom cried, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna leave that alone. And I don't think it was necessarily that she was not open to having the conversation, but it's such a sensitive topic that you see your kids talk about, or, you know, whatever it is, going to jail. Like, a lot of people are ashamed of that. But if that's a part of you, if that's a part of your growth, if it's a part of your past, then you have to be able to stand in it, you have to be able to own it, and then you have to be able to move forward. Because essentially, that is who a part of you. I was arrested in 2008 for a DUI. And when I got my DUI, I was embarrassed, I was torn, I was disappointed. There were so many emotions that were running through my head, and all I had to realize was, where do you go from here? Do you allow this situation to define you, or do you overcome it and move on? I overcame it and I moved on. It is still a part of me. It's still a part of my story. It's never going to go away. Nobody can ever take that away from me. It can be erased from my record, but that night still plays in my head. But guess what? I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm not afraid to talk about it, because there's somebody out there who probably has gone through the same thing, or if I can prevent it from happening to someone else. And guess what? The reason why I went through that is okay. So make sure you're thinking of the open and healthy dialogue that being transparent can create for you and someone else, whether it's your kids, your relationship, your family, whoever. That level of protection that you're willing to take down to be more transparent with those around you can create an open and healthy dialogue. So, point number 2. Being transparent can begin or complete a healing process. A lot of times we don't know that there is even something wrong, because we've built our whole lives on mask and covering up and not telling the truth in its entirety. And in return, we're still broken and we don't even know it. For me, I was still hurting from a relationship back in the day that I didn't even realize that hurt carried into the next relationship. And so that relationship plus the hurt from the new relationship carried into and it was just a continuous cycle. And until I realized that what I was doing was it was preventing me from growing and preventing me from moving forward, I had to stop and just be honest with myself. Forget being transparent with anybody else. Forget being transparent with a therapist or anybody else. I had to be transparent with myself. I had to be willing and ready to own up every experience that was holding me back from my full potential. And once I did that, it was life-changing. It was life-changing. And I I was able to stand in every experience, every heartbreak, every disappointment, everything that was bad and that I was ashamed of and that I was trying to cover up and hide from people is now the very thing that I want to talk about. That's the thing that I want to expose to you first, because I am flawed. We are all flawed, and there's nothing no one can do to unflaw yourself, because you have flaws. It's human. You're human, so you're going to be flawed. And so being able to, again, take off that layer, unmask myself, and expose you to who I am in a raw form gives me so much joy, because that shows me that I am walking in a healing process or I'm completing it. And for me, I would say that every day is continual. I've healed myself from a lot of things, not just healed myself, but with the work of a therapist and being open with those around me, I have literally been able to complete a healing process. But I also feel like it's just going to keep going, because each day there'll be new trials, there'll be new tribulations, and then as long as I'm willing to stand in those and I'm facing them head on and not trying to cover them up and not trying to hide them, then guess what? I can be fully transparent and be comfortable in that, and I can walk forward. I don't have to worry about hiding the broken parts of me and the worst parts of me, because I'm willing to be so transparent up front. I think in relationships, this is so important, because people jump into relationships and marriages and they don't even know who they're marrying. But that's for another video. So the second point, just to recap, when you are transparent, you are beginning or completing a healing process.
Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh?
The third point today is, when you are transparent, your story is helping or could potentially help someone else, and you don't even know it. I often say that my testimony and my story and what I had to go through was never for me. It was never for me. The heartbreaks, the cries, the attempts of suicide, all of that, and overcoming it, that is for somebody else. So when you are transparent and you remove that mask and you're willing to tell your story, you're willing to talk about your trials, you're willing to talk about your mistakes, you are in the process of helping someone else, even if you don't know it. Because when you're verbal about what you are going through or what you've been through, that person may be able to relate to your story. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. I grew up in a single parent home. I had issues with my dad. We repaired the relationship. There's so many things that may jump out to somebody that I'm talking to, or I may be in a room and I'm speaking to somebody, and one person may be able to identify with my story. And because they identify with my story, they feel like they're not alone. And that's so important, because as I was going through my test of times and having heartbreaks and feeling like the world was against me, or feeling like I was alone and had nobody to talk to, after releasing my book, I realized, no, you're not alone. It's just that we don't talk about it. People aren't talking about what they're going through, and so you feel that way because you're not having a conversation with anybody who's feeling the same way as you. And so Cheers to Him, which is my book, was my way of telling my story to connect with females or males or people in relationships in general who could identify or have some kind of relation to what I was going through or what I had gone through. Because everybody's been in a relationship, everybody's had sex for the first time, everybody had a first love, everybody had a breakup, there's so many things that you experience in your life, and even if you haven't experienced them yet, reading my story may prevent you from making the same mistakes that I did, or at least make you more conscious about the decisions that you're making. So point number 3 is so important, and I think this is the most important piece, because people If you share your story, you don't know who you're going to help. You don't know who you're going to help heal. And that's the key, because right now, telling my story and sharing my truth with the world is healing and helping heal so many people. And this is just the tip of it. This is just, I believe that God has in store for me such a platform where I will be a voice that is heard to millions and millions and millions. And I'm excited about that. That in itself makes me excited. So no matter what you're going through in your life or what you've experienced in your life, you're not alone. Take the mask off and reveal who you are, and stand and appreciate your experiences, because they're yours. They're part of who you are. They're part of your journey. They're part of who you're going to be, because one day when you're able to accept the things that you've gone through, or maybe the things that you're going through now, you'll realize that once you come out of it and you come out on top, there's a lesson in everything that you go through. And the biggest lesson that I've learned thus far is that I'm not by myself. There's other people out there that are experiencing the same things or along the lines of things that I'm going through as well. And I can be me with no mask. And it's okay. So as you travel your life and your journey, remember that transparency can create an open dialogue and a healthy dialogue that is so necessary in today's society. It can begin or complete your healing process, and know that your story is somebody else's healing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you've loved this information. Please like and share and drop your comments below. I'll definitely be bringing more videos like this. If not every week, then every other week whenever I can fit time in to record them. But I just want to thank you again for your support. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. And remember to think forward, seek purpose, and live fancy. See you next time.